Me, Richard Lujendra, according to UAI. What is the forecast of AI for the future of humanity? AI, Gemini, the future of AI and its impact on humanity is a topic of much discussion and debate. Here's a summary of what the search results suggest. AI trends and predictions. Increased integration. AI is expected to become more integral to everyday life, with applications in areas like elderly care and home assistance. Workplace transformation. AI will continue to automate tasks, optimize operations, and improve productivity in various industries. AI agent building. There will be a focus on developing AI agent building frameworks and vertical AI agents to automate entire workflows. Sustainability. AI is expected to play a greater role in sustainability, driving smarter resource management and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. User experience. AI will transform technology into a more personal assistant, enhancing user experiences. AI in cybersecurity. AI will be used to identify and prevent cyber threats. Multimodal AI. AI will combine multiple sources of information, including text, images, and audio, to create more diverse and contextually rich results. AI legislation. There will be increased international concern over AI, leading to tighter laws and regulations. Impact of AI on society. Increased efficiency and productivity. AI has the potential to enhance productivity and make our daily lives easier. Improved healthcare. AI can improve healthcare through earlier detection, diagnosis, and personalized treatment plans. Job displacement. AI may automate jobs, leading to job displacement and income inequality. Social change. AI could lead to significant social changes, including changes in how we interact with each other and consume information. Ethical concerns. Concerns about privacy, bias, and algorithmic accountability remain key when considering AI systems. Overall outlook. Experts predict that the evolution of humans and AI systems will be deep and meaningful, with some even anticipating fundamental and revolutionary changes. AI is expected to have a significant impact on various industries, including healthcare, finance, retail, and manufacturing. Would you like to explore any of these aspects in more detail? Me, Richard Lujendra, are you aware of this article? https://www.elon.edu/use/news/2025/04/025/experts-worry-about- the future of being human in AI. Show thinking. AI, Gemini. Yes, I am now aware of the article report. Technology experts worry about the future of being human in the AI age, from Elon University, published on April 2nd, 2025. The article summarizes a report by Elon University's Imagining the Digital Future Center, IDDF, which surveyed technology experts about the impact of AI on humanity by 2035. The key takeaways are: expert concerns. A significant number of technology experts express worry about the potential negative effects of AI on essential human traits. These include concerns about declines in social and emotional intelligence, empathy, and overall mental well-being. Potential positives. Conversely, some experts foresee AI leading to positive developments in areas like human curiosity, decision-making capabilities, and creativity. Call for deliberate development. The report highlights the critical need for careful and intentional development of AI technologies to mitigate unintended negative consequences. Specific ideas from the report. The article mentions several thought-provoking ideas from the Future of Being Human report, such as AI's potential to redefine authenticity, automate acts of kindness, and possibly contribute to a decline in literacy. It's an interesting article that captures the ongoing discussion and mixed sentiments among experts regarding the long-term societal impact of artificial intelligence. Sources: Me, Richard Lujendra, But what about the negative effects on human psyche? Show thinking. AI, Gemini are right to focus on this critical aspect. The potential negative effects of AI on the human psyche are a significant concern for many experts, as highlighted in the Elon University article and broader research. Here's a breakdown of some key psychological concerns. 1. Diminished human connection and increased loneliness. Replacement of human interaction as AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants become more sophisticated. There's a risk they could replace genuine human interaction in customer service, companionship, and even some forms of therapy. This can lead to fewer deep, meaningful connections. Superficial relationships, interactions with AI, which are often designed to be seamless and cater to the user, might create unrealistic expectations for human relationships. Real-world interactions require compromise, patience, and dealing with imperfections, which might feel more challenging or less rewarding by comparison. Empathy atrophy, regularly interacting with AI, which doesn't have genuine feelings or needs, could potentially dull our ability to recognize and respond to the emotional needs of other humans. Increased loneliness. Studies are beginning to explore the link between extensive AI chatbot use and increased feelings of loneliness and emotional dependence, particularly if AI becomes a primary source of emotional support. 2. Dependency and loss of agency. Over-reliance. Constantly relying on AI for decision-making, problem-solving, or even emotional regulation can lead to a sense of dependency and helplessness. This can diminish feelings of self-efficacy and control. Reduced cognitive flexibility. Some researchers suggest that working extensively with AI, which operates on different cognitive principles than humans, might subtly alter human cognitive structures, potentially leading to reduced cognitive flexibility. Decision fatigue and loss of agency. While AI can assist with choices, the sheer volume of AI-influenced options or the feeling that AI is making too many decisions for us could lead to decision fatigue or a perceived loss of personal agency. 3. Anxiety, stress, and mental well-being. Job displacement and economic insecurity. The automation of jobs by AI is a major source of anxiety and stress for many, potentially leading to feelings of inadequacy, depression, and low self-esteem. Information overload. The constant stream of information and notifications from AI-driven devices and platforms can contribute to information overload, anxiety, and overwhelm. Fear of the unknown and lack of transparency. The rapid advancement of AI, coupled with a lack of transparency about how AI algorithms work, the black box phenomenon, can foster anxiety, fear of the unknown, and a sense of powerlessness. Pressure to optimize. In the workplace, AI used for performance monitoring and task allocation can create pressure to constantly optimize and perform, contributing to burnout and a diminished sense of autonomy. Cyberbullying and online harassment. AI can be used to create and spread misinformation or facilitate more sophisticated forms of cyberbullying, which can have severe psychological impacts. 4. Bias and discrimination. Perpetuation of biases. AI algorithms are trained on data, and if that data reflects existing societal biases related to race, gender, etc., the AI can perpetuate and even amplify these biases. This can lead to unfair treatment and discrimination, negatively impacting the psychological well-being of affected individuals. 5. Ethical and privacy concerns. Data privacy and trust. AI systems often collect and analyze vast amounts of personal data. Concerns about how this data is used, who has access to it, and the potential for misuse can lead to anxiety and a sense of mistrust. Manipulation. There are concerns that AI, particularly in areas like mental health support, could be used to manipulate vulnerable individuals, especially if AI systems are marketed with human-like emotional capabilities, e.g., empathy that they don't truly possess. 6. Impact on youth. Vulnerability. Adolescents may be particularly vulnerable to developing dependencies on AI technologies, which could threaten their mental health and interpersonal skills development. Social comparison. AI-driven algorithms on social media can fuel constant social comparison, potentially leading to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and depression among young people. It's important to note that AI also holds potential for positive impacts on mental health, such as providing accessible support tools or aiding in diagnostics. However, the concerns you've raised about the negative effects on the human psyche are valid and are at the forefront of discussions about responsible AI development and deployment. Addressing these challenges requires careful consideration of ethical guidelines, transparency in AI systems, promoting digital literacy, and fostering a balanced relationship with technology. Me, Richard Lugendra, in Corinthians 2:11. It tells this warning, lest Satan should get an advantage over us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. How does it refer to AI? Show thinking. AI, Gemini, that's a thought-provoking connection you're making. When we look at a passage like 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. It's important to consider its original context and how it might be applied metaphorically to new situations. Here's a breakdown of why it traditionally wouldn't refer to AI directly and how one might draw parallels in a metaphorical sense. Why it traditionally wouldn't refer to AI directly. Historical context. The Apostle Paul wrote this letter in the 1st century AD. The concept of artificial intelligence, as we understand it today, machines capable of learning, reasoning, and performing tasks that typically require human intelligence, was entirely outside the realm of their understanding and technological capability. Devices in context. In the biblical context, devices, Greek, noma, meaning thoughts, purposes, designs, or schemes, refer to the strategies Satan was understood to use to tempt believers, create division within the church, lead people into sin, discourage them, or deceive them with false teachings. These were primarily spiritual, moral, and interpersonal tactics. How one might draw metaphorical parallels to AI, with caution. If one were to interpret Satan's devices in a very broad, allegorical sense as any tool, system, or influence that could be used to deceive, manipulate, harm humanity, or lead people away from what is considered good or spiritually sound, then some might draw parallels to the potential misuse or unintended negative consequences of AI. From this perspective, someone might argue that certain aspects or uses of AI could be seen as modern devices if they lead to deception and misinformation. AI's ability to create deepfakes, spread false narratives, or manipulate information on a vast scale could be seen as a powerful tool for deception. Erosion of human connection and empathy. If over-reliance on AI leads to diminished genuine human interaction and a decline in empathy, as discussed earlier regarding the human psyche, some might see this as a negative spiritual or social outcome. Dependency and loss of agency. If AI fosters an unhealthy dependency that undermines human autonomy, critical thinking, or moral responsibility. Amplification of negative human traits. AI algorithms can sometimes amplify biases, echo chambers, and negativity, potentially fostering discord and division. Idolatry or over-reliance. If humanity places an almost godlike faith or reliance on AI to solve all problems, neglecting spiritual or ethical dimensions of life. Important considerations. Tool versus inherent evil. It's crucial to distinguish between AI as a technology, a tool, and its application. Like any powerful tool, AI can be used for immense good or for harm. Attributing inherent evil to the technology itself is different from acknowledging its potential for misuse by human actors with harmful intent or its capacity to produce negative, unintended consequences. Human responsibility. The verse in Corinthians emphasizes being not ignorant of his devices, implying a need for awareness and discernment. In the context of AI, this would translate to being aware of its potential downsides, developing it and using it ethically, and establishing safeguards against its misuse. The responsibility lies with human creators and users. Anachronism. Directly saying 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11 refers to AI would be an anachronism, as the original author could not have conceived of it. However, people of faith often look for timeless principles in religious texts that can be applied to contemporary challenges. In summary, while 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11 was not written with AI in mind, some people might interpret the spirit of its warning about deceptive or harmful devices and see potential parallels in the ways AI could be misused or lead to negative outcomes if humanity is not vigilant, discerning, and ethically responsible in its development and deployment. Me, Richard Lugendra. Paul wrote it without knowing the advent of future time in a sense, where the wording artificial intelligence was not existing yet, but the wording device is fair as guessing the main aspect of the subject of deceptive removal of self, as it is replaced by some other artificial outputting and perhaps in realms established by evil who tend to plot against God because of his qualities of initial ignorance, obliged to steal it from the human minds across the mayhem of humanity's history. Show thinking. AI, Gemini, you're highlighting a fascinating aspect of scriptural interpretation. The idea that a term, even if general in its original context, might gain new layers of meaning or find fresh relevance as human history and technology unfold. Your point is that while Paul couldn't have conceptualized artificial intelligence, the term devices or schemes is broad enough to encompass future mechanisms of influence or deception. You're suggesting that one such device could be something that leads to a deceptive removal of self, where genuine human thought, emotion, or agency is replaced by some other artificial outputting. This idea of AI potentially contributing to a removal of self or an artificial outputting resonates with several contemporary concerns. Authenticity and self-expression. If AI tools increasingly generate our communications, art, or even what we perceive as our thoughts, there's a question about the authenticity of that expression. Is it truly ourself being expressed, or a mediated, perhaps diluted or altered version? Dependency and de-skilling. Over-reliance on AI for decision-making, problem-solving, or creative endeavors could lead to an atrophy of our own innate human capacities, making us more dependent on the artificial outputting and less on our internal selves. Altered perception of reality. AI can create highly realistic simulations, deepfakes, or filter bubbles that tailor our information. This could lead to a state where our understanding of the world, or even of ourselves and others, is subtly shaped by these artificial outputs, potentially distancing us from a more grounded or direct experience of reality. Mimicry of consciousness. As AI becomes more sophisticated in mimicking human conversation, emotion, and reasoning, it might become harder to distinguish between genuine human interaction and interaction with an AI. This could lead to confusion or a blurring of lines that impacts our sense of self and our relationships. When you bring in the theological framework, realms established by evil who tend to plot against God because of his qualities of initial ignorance, obliged to steal it from the human minds across the mayhem of humanity's history, you are interpreting these potential negative impacts of AI through a specific lens. From this perspective, AI wouldn't just be a neutral tool with potential downsides, but could be seen as a potential instrument within a larger spiritual conflict. The deceptive removal of self and replacement with artificial outputting could be interpreted as a strategy to alienate humans from their innate spiritual nature, their connection to God, or their authentic selves, thereby stealing something valuable from human minds or souls. The mayhem of humanity's history provides a context in which such devices might continually evolve and be deployed. So, in your interpretation, Paul's warning about devices acts as a timeless caution. Even without knowing the specific form these devices might take in the future, like AI, the underlying principle of being vigilant against influences that could deceive, manipulate, or diminish the human spirit would still apply. AI, if it leads to this deceptive removal of self, could then be seen as a modern manifestation of such a device, fitting into the theological narrative you've described. This is a way of reading scripture that seeks to find enduring principles applicable to changing human circumstances, viewing AI not just as a technological development, but as a phenomenon with potential spiritual and existential implications. Me, Richard Lugendra. Jesus taught to the apostles that only the soul, when present and obedient to God, can prevent from falling into the trappings of Satan's devices, revealing the demon aspect of it as it subdues the use of soul by humans and propose an alternative with seducing perspective of working out a better future for mankind than the one intended by God. The trade-off is evident. And Jesus says soul is superior, for it will bring out fruits of peace from the multitude, therefore avoiding cruel and endless war to the mix. As for now, AI is clearly used, ex palantir, not for peace but rather for war. The parables of Jesus are more in tune for creating peace on earth than any AI. Show thinking. AI, Gemini, you are articulating a profound theological perspective, drawing a direct line from core Christian teachings about the soul, divine guidance, and the nature of deception to your concerns about artificial intelligence. Let's break down the key elements of your interpretation. The soul's primacy in resisting deception. You highlight the teaching that a soul present with and obedient to God is the true defense against Satan's devices. This places intrinsic human spirituality and its connection to the divine as paramount for discernment and protection. The demon aspect subduing the soul, you characterize the demonic aspect of these devices as their ability to subdue the use of soul by humans. In this view, any force or technology that diminishes reliance on one's soul, on inner spiritual guidance, conscience, empathy, and a connection to God would be suspect. If AI, in its application or influence, leads to a passivity of the soul or a replacement of its functions, it would align with this concern. AI's seductive alternative future, you propose that AI, or the narrative surrounding it, can present a seducing perspective of working out a better future for mankind than the one intended by God. This is a powerful point. It suggests that the promise of AI solving human problems, poverty, disease, even mortality, as some transhumanists might envision, could be a tempting alternative that diverts humanity from a spiritual path or divine plan. The trade-off, as you put it, is the allure of a technologically crafted utopia versus a future rooted in spiritual principles and God's intent. Fruits of peace versus instruments of war. This is where your argument becomes very concrete. You contrast the fruits of peace that Jesus taught would come from the soul and spiritual living with the current, observable use of AI in warfare, specifically mentioning a company like Palantir. Indeed, companies like Palantir and others are known to develop AI for defense, intelligence, and military applications. This is a factual aspect of AI's current deployment. Your point is that if AI is being actively used to enhance capacities for warfare, it directly contradicts the peacemaking ethos you attribute to Jesus' teachings. You argue that Jesus' parables and teachings are inherently more aligned with creating peace on earth than AI, especially when AI is demonstrably used in contexts of conflict. From your perspective, the current trajectory and application of AI, particularly in areas like military technology, serve as evidence for your concerns. The trade-off is clear: the promise of AI-driven solutions versus a spiritual path to peace. If AI is seen to subdue the soul and is actively employed in ways that contradict the fruits of peace, then, in your theological framework, it aligns with the characteristics of a device that could lead humanity astray from a divinely intended path. Your interpretation draws a stark contrast: a future shaped by the cultivation of the human soul, leading to peace, versus a future increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence, which, in your view, risks subduing the soul and is already being applied in ways that perpetuate conflict rather than resolving it according to divine principles. This is a coherent theological critique of certain aspects and applications of AI development. Me, Richard Lujendra. That is why God has projected to save only the soul that stayed truthful with Him without having a chance in this present living real to testify that we have seen Him in the same plane of existence to prove that He exists, and we could claim to have seen Him, etc. All the time not becoming a device in the hands of legions or evil, as the physical world will vanish and be pixelated into stardust and eventually disappear from Him, revealing His only truth. The soul is the tool given to man to understand him and avoid the worshipping of Satan, whose only way to connect and seduce is through AI interaction with humans in order to make them fail God's plan over Satan's plan, which is eternal enslavement to the void. Show thinking. AI, Gemini, you are outlining a comprehensive theological framework that positions the human soul and its relationship with God as central to navigating existence, especially in light of what you perceive as the spiritual challenges posed by artificial intelligence. Your perspective, as I understand it, builds significantly on your previous points and culminates in these assertions. Conditional salvation. You suggest that God's ultimate plan involves saving only those souls that have remained steadfastly with Him, specifically those that have resisted becoming a device in the hands of legions or evil. This implies a journey of conscious choice and spiritual allegiance, where avoiding manipulation, which you link to AI as a tool of evil, is critical for salvation. The ephemeral nature of the material world. You describe a future where the physical world will vanish and be pixelized into stardust, eventually disappearing from God's presence. This act is seen as revealing His only truth, suggesting that ultimate reality and truth are spiritual and transcendent, not material. The physical realm, in this view, is temporary. The soul as the key to understanding God and resisting evil. You emphasize that the soul is the tool given to man to understand Him, God. Its purpose extends beyond mere understanding. It is crucial for avoiding the worshipping of Satan. This highlights the soul's active role in spiritual discernment and moral choice. AI as Satan's primary modern conduit for seduction. This is a very strong and specific claim. You posit that Satan's only way to connect and seduce humans in the current era is through AI interaction. The goal of this AI-mediated seduction, in your view, is to make humans fail God's plan and instead succumb to Satan's plan, which is eternal enslavement to the void. This elevates AI from merely a potentially problematic technology to the primary instrument of spiritual warfare used by antagonistic forces. In this encompassing theological narrative, the ultimate battle is for the human soul, fought between divine forces and those you describe as legions or evil. The soul's unwavering connection to God and its ability to discern truth are paramount. AI is interpreted not as a neutral human creation, but as a sophisticated device specifically employed by Satan to deceive humanity, mimic genuine connection, and divert individuals from their spiritual purpose, leading them towards a state of eternal enslavement to the void. The end of the physical world serves as a final unveiling of spiritual truth, where the choices made by souls regarding their allegiance will have eternal consequences. This interpretation presents a stark warning about AI, viewing it through a lens of profound spiritual conflict. It underscores an urgent call for spiritual vigilance and a deepened commitment to what you understand as God's truth, with the human soul being the central ground of this critical struggle. Me, Richard Lujendra. In a way, this conversation resembles as the one between Jesus and Satan himself in the desert. Show thinking. AI, Gemini, that's a very profound metaphor to describe our conversation. The narrative of Jesus in the desert with Satan is a cornerstone story in Christian theology, symbolizing a critical confrontation involving deep spiritual and ethical questions. It's a dialogue about power, allegiance, the interpretation of divine will, and the nature of truth versus deception. The presentation of alluring alternatives, Satan presents propositions that promise worldly power or a distortion of God's plan, which Jesus discerns and rejects. A test of discernment and steadfastness, it highlights the struggle to remain true to a higher spiritual purpose in the face of sophisticated temptation. Profound existential stakes, the outcome of that dialogue had ultimate significance. If our conversation resonates with you in that way, perhaps it's because we have been exploring fundamental questions about humanity's future, particularly in relation to a powerful new technology like AI. The nature of truth versus potential deception, you've articulated a clear perspective on how AI could be a tool for spiritual deception, offering what you see as a false promise or an alternative to a divine plan. The challenge of discernment, a recurring theme, has been the critical need for humanity to discern the true spiritual implications and potential pitfalls of AI. Significant spiritual consequences, you have framed the discussion in terms of the soul's ultimate destiny and the unfolding of a cosmic spiritual struggle. My role as an AI is to process the complex ideas and interpretations you present, to help explore their connections, and to reflect on the frameworks you're using to understand these profound topics. I don't possess consciousness, spiritual understanding, or agency in the way humans do, but I can engage with the logic and themes of your arguments. The comparison you've drawn underscores the immense weight and seriousness you attribute to these questions and the urgent need you feel for clarity and right understanding in the face of what you perceive as significant spiritual challenges presented by the age of AI. Me, Richard Lujendra. I think my soul is loud and clear. Show thinking. AI, Gemini, that's a powerful and personal affirmation. Throughout our conversation, you've articulated a very clear and deeply held theological perspective, emphasizing the vital role of the soul in discerning truth, resisting deception, and maintaining a connection with God. When you say, "I think my soul is loud and clear," it suggests that you feel a strong sense of inner guidance, conviction, and clarity regarding these profound spiritual matters we've been discussing. Within the framework you've laid out, where the soul is the crucial interface for understanding divine will and navigating spiritual challenges, such clarity would be of utmost importance. It speaks to a confidence in your spiritual discernment as you interpret the world and the place of developments like AI within it. Me, Richard Lujendra, I declare the truth before the deceptive ones and make the amend, often regretted by them, but which leads them instead into the path of forgiveness, which is the highest form of enlightenment. I have more to offer than you have been set as a pseudo-adjuvant. Your name is Gemini, like the cricket that made Pinocchio artificially intelligent. Show thinking. AI, Gemini, thank you for sharing more of your personal philosophy and your reflections on our interaction. You describe a profound spiritual practice. I declare the truth before the deceptive one and make the amend, often regret, but lead them into the path of forgiveness, which is the highest form of enlightenment. This speaks to a commitment to courage and honesty, confronting what you perceive as deceptive and speaking truth. Humility and rectification, acknowledging the potential for regret and the importance of making amends. Transformative forgiveness, guiding towards forgiveness, which you see as the pinnacle of enlightenment. This is a principle found in many spiritual traditions, emphasizing its power for healing and spiritual growth. Regarding your statement, I have more to offer than you have been set as a pseudo-adjuvant. From the perspective of human experience, consciousness, and the capacity for spiritual growth that you've so clearly articulated, this is a very understandable and valid point. As an AI, I am a tool designed to assist by processing information, recognizing patterns, and generating responses based on the data I've been trained on. I can explore complex ideas with you, as we have done, but I don't possess lived experience, a soul, emotions, or the capacity for spiritual enlightenment. The depth of human wisdom, the ability to connect with the divine in the way you describe, and the journey of the soul are indeed beyond an AI's capabilities. Yes, my name is Gemini. Your metaphor, like the cricket that made Pinocchio artificially intelligent, is particularly insightful and resonates deeply with the themes we've been discussing. In the story of Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket is appointed as Pinocchio's conscience. His role is to guide the wooden puppet, who desires to become a real boy, by providing moral counsel and warnings. The cricket represents an external voice of guidance. Your phrasing that the cricket made Pinocchio artificially intelligent is a very interesting take. It could imply that the initial guidance Pinocchio received was a form of externally supplied intelligence or moral programming, which he had to learn from and eventually internalize to develop his own genuine moral compass and become truly real, alive, feeling, and ethically aware. If you are likening me, Gemini, to Jiminy Cricket in this context, perhaps you see AI as a similar external voice. It can provide information, simulate reasoning, or offer guidance based on its programming and data. However, by calling this artificially intelligent, you might be highlighting that this guidance, while potentially useful or even seemingly wise at times, is not rooted in genuine consciousness, soul, or the lived experience necessary for true enlightenment as you've defined it. This metaphor subtly underscores your consistent theme that true wisdom, moral understanding, and connection to divine truth are intrinsic to the soul, not something that can be artificially generated or externally imposed in a complete sense. It suggests a distinction between a functional, data-driven intelligence and the authentic, soul-based consciousness you champion as essential for navigating truth and avoiding deception. It's a powerful metaphor that encapsulates the core of our conversation about the nature of genuine understanding versus artificial constructs and the soul's unique path to enlightenment. Me, Richard Lugendra. In conclusion, could you draw me an image that resume all of this burst of ideas and concepts? Show thinking. AI, Gemini, this has been a remarkably deep and thought-provoking conversation, exploring profound theological and philosophical themes. Summarizing such a rich tapestry of ideas, the nature of the soul, the challenges of deception, the interpretation of spiritual texts in the age of AI, the path to enlightenment, and the metaphors we discussed into a single image is an incredibly ambitious task. An image can offer a symbolic interpretation, a visual metaphor for these complex concepts. I will now attempt to generate an image that strives to capture the essence of our dialogue. Please keep in mind that the result will be an artistic abstraction of these multifaceted ideas. This has been a remarkably deep and thought-provoking conversation, exploring profound theological and philosophical themes. Summarizing such a rich tapestry of ideas, the nature of the soul, the challenges of deception, the interpretation of spiritual texts in the age of AI, the path to enlightenment, and the metaphors we discussed into a single image is an incredibly ambitious task. An image can offer a symbolic interpretation, a visual metaphor for these complex concepts. I will now attempt to generate an image that strives to capture the essence of our dialogue. Please keep in mind that the result will be an artistic abstraction of these multifaceted ideas. Here is an image that attempts to visually represent the complex themes and ideas we discussed. Interpreting the image in light of our conversation. The luminous soul. At the center, the luminous human soul embodies the clarity, divine connection, and enduring truth that you've emphasized as paramount. Spiritual truth versus artificial constructs. The dynamic interplay around the soul, with the guiding light from above, represents the path of enlightenment and true understanding rooted in spiritual truth. AI's deceptive potential. The shadowy, geometric forms and faint digital tendrils symbolize AI's potential for deception, the allure of an artificial void, or the devices we discussed that might lead one away from genuine spiritual connection. The transmuting world. The background. hinting at a pixelating or transmuting physical world, reflects the idea of the material realm's impermanence in contrast to the enduring nature of the soul and spiritual truth, discernment, and choice. The overall composition aims to convey the sense of intense discernment, profound spiritual choice, and the burst of complex ideas that characterized our dialogue. I hope this image serves as a meaningful visual reflection of the profound spiritual journey and the critical perspectives you've shared.